Sorry for the delay. There is some technical glitches. So while we are once again come into the talk, I request Madam Bhadru to continue his talk.
ये
Hello.
एपिसोड जो लाया था बिल्कुल तो एमपी यहाँ का था जो आया था लगाना
Hello, Madam.
Yes.
Yeah, please
Can you
continue.
hear me?
Yeah, please continue.
Okay. Thank you, and sorry for the disturbance. Technical glitches keep happening. Welcome everyone to this talk. As you can see, the title of my talk has two components in it. The first one is biodiversity in urban spaces, and the second one is a dog watcher's diary. And my talk is literally divided into these two components, and I'm going to try and take you through in the next half an hour or so. So I am a faculty member at the Department of Biological Sciences, Indian Institute of Science Education and Research, Kolkata. And on the slide, you can see my other two affiliations, one to the Indian National Young Academy of Science and the other to the Global Young Academy. So what is biodiversity? This is a word that you keep hearing around us. You read about it in newspapers, you see it on TV. Children do biodiversity projects in school. But what does this word bring to mind? When we hear this word, what is the first image that comes to your mind? My hunch is, if I tell a person, think about biodiversity, these are the two kinds of images which you would be thinking of. One would be probably a very green forest, something like a rainforest. You might think of the Amazon with a lot of plants of different kinds, a lot of interesting animals and birds. Or you would be thinking of safe biodiversity kind of posters which we see around us. And this is the other way that we think of biodiversity connected to climate change, connected to sustainability. So if we think about biodiversity from the perspective of an ecologist or a biologist, I cannot help remembering Charles Darwin. In his book, The Origin of Species, in the later volumes or the later editions of his book, he ends it with this paragraph. I'm just reading out a bit of it. It goes, "It is interesting to contemplate a tangled bank, clothed with many plants of many kinds, with birds singing on the bushes, with various insects flitting about, and with worms crawling through the damp earth, and to reflect that these elaborately constructed forms, so different from each other and dependent upon each other in so complex a manner, have all been produced by laws acting around us." And he goes on to talk about how all of this is a byproduct of evolution, or all of this has been produced by the one single process which we call evolution. And if you think about this description, this is pretty much like this image that you saw in the previous slide of the tangled bank, of what biodiversity represents. So if you think of a technical definition of biodiversity, the best I could find was in the United Nations Environment Program handbook, which they produced in 2010. It's a very nice little handbook which you can find freely online. It's in the PDF form. Just Google it and you'll find it. It describes biodiversity as the variety of life on Earth, includes all organisms, species, and populations, the genetic variation among these, and their complex assemblages of communities and ecosystems. So biodiversity is basically every form of life conceivable in every environment you can think of, be it rainforests, deserts, coral reefs, or the highest mountains around the world. There is life in some form or the other, and all of that is included in biodiversity. But would you think of cities when you talk of biodiversity? Typically, we don't. If we think of biodiversity, we never connect this word to city life. But think about it. Look around yourself. If you happen to be in a city, there would be plants around you, there would be insects around you, there would be birds and mammals around you. So there is biodiversity in cities very much present. Doesn't matter how populated a city you are looking at, doesn't matter how grey the city is around you, you would definitely find some of these forms that you see on my slides: birds, plants, flowers, weeds, insects in the form of butterfly, bees, ants, mosquitoes, cockroaches, reptiles like lizards, snakes, frogs, amphibians, mammals. Mr. Ghosh,
Yeah, my audio is fine.
Mr. Ghosh,
Yes, please say.
apparently the YouTube live is not streaming. Can you check? I've stopped.
YouTube. It is going on, madam. It is going on. Please continue, madam. Please continue. No problem.
Okay, fine. Thank you. I will. Sorry for the interruption. So, saying that if you look around you, it is unlikely that you will not find some of these life forms around you, maybe in your own house. So, biodiversity is everywhere in different forms. Uh, Most obvious organism is, of course, humans. We see ourselves all the time. We consider ourselves to be the most important of life forms on Earth, but this is not necessarily so. So, what is an ecosystem? Because I mentioned the word ecosystem, it's a biological community of interacting organisms and their physical environment. The various organisms living in urban spaces which interact with each other are part of an urban ecosystem. You could look at an urban ecosystem and find all kinds of interactions like you would find in any other ecosystem. This could be prey-predator interactions, host-parasite interactions, competition between species for food, space, etc. And many animals that you find in urban ecosystems happen to be scavengers. They could be scavengers like you see in the dogs and the cows in India, or even bears. There are birds like the crows. If you look at these pictures, you have cows and dogs here, you have a cow and a crow here, you have a bear here. All of these are scavengers. Scavengers are organisms which either eat dead decaying matter, or in this case, they forage around for leftovers in the dumps and garbage bins, and often they are responsible for cleaning off a lot of our garbage in urban spaces. Question is, why should we care? Why are we bothered even about urban ecosystems, about scavengers, about different forms of life and biodiversity in urban spaces? Here, I would switch gears a bit to tell you why we should care. All of life forms are connected in some way or the other. Here is an image which I had in my earlier slide of different forms of biodiversity in cities, which you can see. You see here a flower with a sunflower with a caterpillar, which is actually feeding on these inner flowers. And then there is a honeybee, which is foraging for nectar in these flowers. If you look at the different kinds of life forms and the connections that you have between them, the sunflower is providing food in the form of nectar to the honeybee for its colony, and the honeybee is a pollinator for the sunflower. It's food for the caterpillar, but the caterpillar is actually eating up the sunflower, so it's a parasite. So there's a prey-predator interaction, there's a plant-pollinator interaction. The caterpillar can be eaten by a myna or a crow, and the myna and crow might be competitors for the same kind of food. A cat might be feeding on the eggs and babies of the mynas, and then the cat becomes a predator of the myna. So you could see all forms of life end up being part of a large web, even in an urban ecosystem. Ethology is a field of science in which we study behavior of animals. A broader field is behavioral biology, which includes behavior of not just animals but plants and other forms of organisms. And in order to understand, appreciate, and conserve biodiversity, which is something that we are all concerned about, we really need to understand the ecology of the organisms. We really need to understand the way they behave, the way they survive. Only then we can take proper steps to conserve them. So, behavioral biologists are people like us who try to understand how organisms live and why they do what they do. Now think about this one image. Nobody needs to be told what this image represents. It is this tiny virus which is wreaking havoc all around the world. In fact, you're sitting at home and listening to me on your computer, on your phone, because of this virus, because we cannot go anywhere. We are only doing webinars. We are not doing conferences, meetings, classes anymore. And this is a particle. It's not even a proper living organism. It's a particle which is part living, part non-living, about 120 nanometers in size, which is creating all of this havoc around the world. And we are constantly being bombarded with information about what to do to stay safe, how to live our lives, how to stay safe from the virus, how to keep each other safe, how to stay healthy. I'm going to give you a couple of examples here. This is a few posters that I've picked up from a website where people are being given information about how to stay safe, how to live a healthy life, which will prevent them from getting the infection, hopefully, or giving information about the coronavirus. Question is, how do we know about the coronavirus? How do we know how to stay away from it and how to keep it away from us? We need to study the behavior of the virus. So, understanding the behavior of the virus is important for us to fight against it. So, it is not only the science of how to develop a vaccine, what will kill the coronavirus, but for the time being, it is basically the behavior of the virus, studies on the behavior of the virus, which are helping us to cope with the situation until we come up with a vaccine or until we come up with a cure. Now I'm going to switch gears and tell you a bit of my real life experience of what we do. And I'm going to hope that some of you who are listening on today, maybe some young students, would be enthused to follow in our footsteps and go out and look at animals and plants around them and try and understand how they behave. Basically, get you interested in not just biodiversity, but also in the study of animal behavior. So my lab is called the Dog Lab because we study dogs, and we try to study dogs in their natural habitat, in the street in India. So dogs in urban spaces, not just in India, but I'll just show you a map where all you find them in a while. They are present in all kinds of human habitats. They are primarily scavengers but can also hunt. There are several reports of dogs ganging up together and hunting. They are largely dependent on humans for food because they're scavengers. They can feed in dustbins and then they also beg for food and they get fed by friendly humans. They live in small groups or medium-sized groups of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 max. They have both positive and negative interactions with humans on the street, and this is very important, as you will see as I go through my presentation. In India, there are called stray dogs, street is feral dogs, but technically they should be called the free-ranging dogs, which means their movement, their life is not under direct human control. They are not owned. They have a life of their own. They can breathe freely, go wherever they like. This is what a free-ranging dog is. When I tell people I work on dogs, the typical images they conjure up in their minds are the ones that you have on the screen. Around the world, there are many people who work on dogs. There are dog researchers who are all working on pet dogs. There are very few of us who actually work on dogs which are not pets. But interestingly, as I told you, I'm going to show you a map very soon. And this is the map of the world. All the areas that you see highlighted in red are places where there are dogs which live on street, which is the free-ranging dogs. So India is not the only place where you have free-ranging dogs. Free-ranging dogs are there all over the global south. From our studies and also from general observations, everybody would know that dogs have a love-hate relationship with humans. People feed them, people show them a lot of love, people provide them with shelter, but there are also people who hate them. Dogs face a lot of threats. They get beaten up, they even get killed by humans. And this is not enough. We have to remember, no matter how much we love dogs, we have to remember that they are also a big source of rabies. And India is one of those countries in the world which has a huge burden of rabies. So this is a problem of the dog-human relationship. This is a situation of conflict between dogs and humans. This is The other scenario where we know that not only do humans show love to dogs, but dogs also follow humans, they show a lot of love. And this is a particular news report which I always find very interesting. This is a story from about a couple of years back. It came out in the news of a dog, a stray dog, which had followed this team in the Himalayas up during an expedition and reached the summit during a climb. Now, whenever I see this picture, it reminds me of a different story, and this is why I'm showing you this. Anybody in India would know the story, and this is the story of the dog that followed the Pandavas in their last journey up the mountains. At the end, it was only Yudhishthira who reached, followed by the dog. For me, this story is very interesting because it always brings this image of a dog blindly following a human, maybe for food, maybe for love, I don't know what, but a dog following a human. And this is something that any dog lover will relate to because we have always had situations like this where a dog follows us and forgets its territorial boundary, bravely follows a human into a different territory, and eventually gets into trouble at times because the human is then gone and the dog is in a foreign territory. But this is very, very innate behavior in dogs, and anyone who has seen and known feeding in dogs would relate to the story. Question is, why do you want to study feeding in dogs? From the perspective of evolution, free-ranging dogs provide us with a situation that the dogs were yet not pets. They were not being controlled by humans, they were not being artificially bred, and were still leading a life where they were very close to humans, interacting with humans, dependent on humans for food. So they have a very, very interesting place in the story of the evolution of the dog-human relationship. So they are an interesting model system for evolution. And of course, in India, we have this advantage of having populations of dogs which have probably lived like this for centuries without intermediate periods of them becoming completely removed from humans. So these dogs are natural populations of dogs which are existing for many, many, many generations. And of course, dogs and humans go back a long way. There is a lot of research being carried on to understand the long shared history of dogs and humans. And for a very practical purpose, even if you are a dog hater, even if you think they are tasteful, they should not be there, in order to manage conflict, we need to understand the behavior and the ecology of a species. Just like I said, we need to understand the behavior of the coronavirus, novel coronavirus, to be able to control it. We need to understand the behavioral ecology of street dogs to be able to control their population as they are so eager to do. So what do we do at Dog Lab? We ask lots of questions about their behavior, things like how do they interact with each other, in terms of mating, parental care, interactions between siblings, territorial fights, competition over food mates, how do they interact with humans, humans as resources, humans as threats, and how smart dogs, their ability to solve simple tasks like opening up containers to get food, ability to distinguish between quantities, more and less, and their preference for food. Are they able to find a good food and eat it first? Are they able to distinguish between something which has proteins in it, something that smells of meat, versus something which is just a biscuit or a chapati? So if you look at, I'm just going to give you a very brief overview of what we have kind of in the last 11 years or so of our research. We now know what the early life of a dog or the life of a puppy looks like. We know that in the very, very early stages of development, dogs receive a lot of care from their mothers. Between the age of 7 to 13 weeks, there is the period of weaning when the mother gradually reduces her active nursing and care and eventually tapers out for parental care. And at about 4 month age, the puppies become juvenile when they are no longer being actively cared for by their mothers. If you look at the kind of care a mother provides, she does not just nursing, which is the pink portions of these bars here, but she cleans them, which is the allogrooming. She sleeps along with them, giving them warmth in this pylon behavior. She does a lot of play, regurgitates food for them. If you see these blue patches, as you see the for the older pups, the mother is regurgitating food, so they're being introduced to solids by this mechanism where the mother eats something, swallows it, and regurgitates it for the puppies. There's a lot of protection, and then eventually the mother starts bringing food, solid food, and offering it to the pups. And she also does a lot of making up the den when the pups are smaller, eating the fecal matter, and probably helping the den to remain clean. Interestingly, this is an image again, which I'm sure anybody who has been seeing dogs around will have seen, when there would be puppies running towards the mother to suckle them, and the mother would be running away from the puppies, refusing to nurse them. I have often seen people say, this mother is horrible, it's not feeding the pups, and they would even try to grab them out and bring it to them. I would like to tell people out there that this is a very, very important part of biology. This is a very, very important part of development of pups. And breeding needs to happen. The mother needs to eventually stop nourishing the pups, conserve her energies, and reproduce again in the next season. And the pups need to move on from nursing, suckling to solids. So this is a very important transitional phase in the lives of pups, which they go through over a span of 5 to 6 weeks. This is data which shows that as the pups grow older, my data starts here at 3 weeks, because the first 2 weeks the mother is inside the den, you cannot see anything, and they are too collective, you cannot go close enough to do behavioral observations. From 3 weeks down to when they are 14, 15 weeks, by when nursing has been stopped. As the pups grow older, the mother gradually brings down her nursing efforts and shifts them to solids, eventually weans them off, and now they are on their own. But that doesn't mean she stops caring for them, because initially the pups would be going out to forage with the mother. The mother would actually be teaching them how to find food. And this is again a very, very important part of the pup's development, where they are actively learning from the mother, and not only from the mother, but other members of the group. We did a long-term study of about 5 years, and we found that if you look at large groups in which there are multiple females, then it's not only the mother who shows care. Of course, the mother is the one who's caring the most for the puppies, but also grandmothers, aunts, older sisters, and sometimes males who might be older siblings, uncles, or even some unrelated males who come and regurgitate food for the puppies. Sometimes there is nursing by other females. There would be protection, there would be play behavior, there would be allogrooming. So there is care given to puppies in the group by not just the mother, but also other adult group members. We divided care received by pups into maternal care, female allo care. Allo is different, so a female which is different from the mother giving care, and male allo care. Question remains, it's an open question. Often people ask us, and we don't really know whether these males who are showing care are the fathers. We call them the putative fathers because they behave like fathers, but we don't have the genetic data to support the claim that these are the fathers, because dogs mate multiply, they are promiscuous. So each male mates with multiple females, each female mates with multiple males. So the identity of the father is not very clear. So we were very thrilled by these observations, and we said, looks like dogs in India also have Indian joint family-like systems. Interestingly, when we asked what kind of care do the fathers and the mothers show, this is the graph here is something that I showed you a while ago, just in different color codes, of how the mother distributes her care over the 3rd to the 17th weeks of pup age. If you just look at the overall color coding, then you would see a shift in the color code when I show you the graph for the fathers, or the putative fathers. And the major conclusion we had from here is, while mothers feed the host, fathers mostly play with the puppies. So there seems to be not only different levels of care, but also different kinds of care that different members of the group are giving to the pups. In a group, there are multiple puppies, often big litters. Sometimes there are other puppies in the same group born to a different mother. And this is a very complex looking network structure which shows just play. You see the sizes of the circles basically show who plays how much. And all the light blue circles are puppies. Obviously, puppies are much more playful than all other individuals. But only thing that I wanted to highlight to you is that the puppies, they develop social bonding with not only just siblings but also their non-sibling pups in the same groups through this very important behavior of play. In the animal world, it is known that play in early life is very, very important for determining a lot of things in later adult life. They are likely to shape future relationships within the groups and define the dynamics of the group. Play is also known to be important for learning to perform proper territorial defense, proper aggression, and proper meeting rituals in the adult life. Now, I would like to tell you the take home message for us from all of these observations. Uh, this is the kind of negative results that we have from all of this, that when we followed pups from their birth until 7 months of age, which is the age of sexual maturity, we saw that with uh, age, the survival actually decreases. So as they grow older, more and more pups die. And unfortunately, only 19% of the population survive beyond the age of 7 months. And this is data from 105 litters spread over different years, more than 400 puppies. So, of the various reasons for which pups die, we found that humans cause 63%, which is the highest level of mortality. Of so, if you look at disease, if you look at fights between dogs, if you look at human-induced mortality, like accidents, like people taking puppies from one place and leaving them on another place, and this puppy dies of starvation or gets attacked by older dogs, people actively beating dogs to death or poisoning them, all of this put together, we are the biggest threat to the survival of pups in their early life. The highest mortality rate is actually at 4th month. And remember, I told you 4 months is when the mother eventually stops giving them active care and they start moving on their own, foraging with the mother, but they are also now more mobile. And we saw that this is when maximum car accidents start happening. So, the take home message from this: pups receive extensive care from their mothers up to the age of 4 months. They also have various levels of interactions with other group members, both adults and pups. They learn to forage from the adults. They are highly efficient scavengers, which we have seen in a series of experiments about which I'm not going to talk today. And their early social life is something which is very important, which we know from studies on other species, that the development, the early social development, influences personalities in animals and can affect the survival in later time. So, my request to all dog lovers out there, especially the young people, we know we often get tempted when we see a cute little puppy and we want to take it home. Think before you pick it up and take it home. You might think you're taking it home because you're taking it to your home, but you're actually taking the pup away from its family, from all its early life learning, and from its home, which is the street. I'm going to talk to you briefly about some interesting findings that we had about interactions of dogs and humans directly on streets. These are medially results from adult dogs. Several studies. These are two papers that you can find online. That's why these are freely accessible. That's why I'm not putting up anything else, but just the titles of the papers. The first one, where we tested the ability of free-ranging dogs to follow human pointing gestures. Why we are doing this? Because it is thought that dogs are special because they can actually understand human body language. They can understand things like pointing, things like being called out, things like threatening gestures. And this is called social cognitive abilities of dogs. And this is how they are thought to be very different from all other free-ranging kin. And All studies on these abilities of dogs until date have been done on pet dogs in a closed lab environment with their owners being present most of the time. We did these experiments with dogs which are unknown to the experimenters in different parts of India, in different neighborhoods, using one dog only once for an experiment, completely randomly selected dogs, and we asked the same questions that people have asked about pet dogs. Are they capable of understanding human pointing? And in the first study, we found something very interesting. For puppies, most of them just blindly go wherever you point, which means they are probably have an innate ability to follow pointing. But when they are like 6 months old, the teenage period of dogs, they stop following pointing and go the other way around. Somebody's phone is ringing. Can you just keep it on mute, please?
Yeah, please continue, madam.
And when you do this with adults, adults are kind of 50-50. They can follow pointing, but they choose to do so under certain circumstances. If they follow your point and they get your reward, they will follow the pointing again. So there is positive reinforcement. If they follow a point and don't get a reward, the next time you show them a hole, they'll go the other way around. So there is negative reinforcement. So they are not only capable of following the pointing gesture, they're also capable of judging you by your immediate behavior. And in the follow-up, we did a more complex pointing gesture test. We showed them something, pointed for a while and removed the pointing, more complex pointing gestures, which pet dogs are able to follow. And we saw that even free-ranging dogs, without any training, without any prior interaction with the experimenter, they are actually able to follow these subtle cues, which shows that they are very, very attuned to understanding human behavior, at least in terms of gestures. We also tested other kinds of gestures like a friendly cue versus a slightly low impact threat where I just raise my hand, or a high impact threat when I show them a stick. And then I provided food and I saw whether the dog will approach this experimenter similarly or differently when these different threats have been given. And we saw that they showed a behavioral plasticity. They can understand the gestures and adjust their behavior accordingly. When you show them a friendly cue, they immediately go when you offer food. When you show them a high impact threat, they do not go even when you show them food. And this is another paper which anybody can read. It is again freely available online. My favorite experiment is where we try to see whether dogs come to humans whom they have never met before for the food or for the affection that we show them. Because we often just call out for dogs and pat them on the head. We don't always offer them food. And we did a set of experiments and we asked this question. I'm not going to go into the details of the experiment, but let me just tell you, we offered a set of dogs just food and we offered a set of dogs just petting. And after this, we tested whether they would come and feed from our hands. And the summary of the result is that when for a long term we gave them only food reward, the dogs did not change their initial behavior, did not come to us and feed from our hands. But when we gave social reward, that is just petting to dogs over a period of time on different days, these black dots here basically show how many dogs came and fed from the hand, and the crosses are the dogs which did not come and feed from the hand. And if you see, about 50% of the dogs eventually come and feed from the hand. So basically, what we concluded is free-ranging dogs do not trust unfamiliar humans. So on day one, they will not come and feed from your hand, but they preferentially rely on humans who show them love rather than who provide them food when they undergo repeated interactions. This is highly adaptive because we know people often offer them food that is poison. So if a dog trusts a human based on only food, these dogs are likely not to survive for long. But people who show love to dogs are very unlikely to be people who are also going to poison them, unless, of course, they are maniacs of some kind. So building trust based on a show of affection would actually have a higher survival value in an evolutionary timescale than building trust on just being offered food. The final thing that I'm going to talk about is how do we influence dog behavior? We carried out studies on friendliness and approachability of dogs in different kinds of human habitats. So if you can see the first two pairs, the first two images up and down are areas of high human flux. One is a railway station and the other is a marketplace. Human flux is measured by the number of humans you encounter in a minute. Then there are areas of intermediate human flux, mostly residential areas. And then there are areas of low human flux, which are typically suburbs or, while the intermediate human flux areas are residential areas with some shops and commercial places, low human flux areas are typically completely residential. And we try to go to these places and encounter random dogs and test their tendency to approach when offered food and just when called out to. So, how friendly are these dogs? How scared are they of humans? How likely are they to come when offered food? And what we found is, if you look at this data, uh, ignore all the technicalities, just the intermediate and the low and the high human flux. If you see the distribution of the three colors, white, black, and gray, there is definitely something that you see to be different. When we perform statistics on this data, we see that the tendency of free ranging dogs to approach the unfamiliar human differs in the three zones. Dogs in the intermediate zones are the boldest, which is when you call them, they'll come, whether you give them food or not. While the dogs in these zones are also the friendliest. What we found is in the low human flux zones, where they encounter humans, strangers the least, those are the dogs which are the least approachable and they will not even come even when you're offering food. While the dogs in the high human flux zones are more opportunistic, they will not come to you if you call, but if you offer them food, they'll come and get the food and run. This is the first study that we know of when somebody has actually tried to test approachability and how human behavior or how human day-to-day behavior affects dogs' responses. Why I'm talking about this is something which is closer to home that all of us would have experienced in the most recent times, which is the lockdown. I'll sum this up and come back to this. So the question was, how would the lockdown affect the behavior of dogs? This was something that we were very concerned about because obviously one fine morning the dogs did not find any humans on streets. The previous day it was something, the next day it was something else. We just went into lockdown and everything stopped. So the roads were empty, there were no vehicles, there were no humans, which also meant there was no food. Because many of these dogs, again, remember, depend on garbage bins, open marketplaces, garbage from eateries. All of these are major sources of food. So, other than in the neighborhoods, there's a huge scarcity of food and there are no humans. So, how would the dogs react to this? And it's not just dogs. There were reports in the newspaper of wild animals being spotted on roads in different parts of the country, actually in different parts of the world. Animals who are in the fringe areas would be reacting in some way or the other to this sudden change in human behavior over time. And of course, there were many animal lovers. There are many animal lovers who are still feeding dogs. They came out in large numbers and started feeding dogs in many areas. But the question to us was, from the perspective of people who work on dogs, that when there is feeding happening in certain pockets and other pockets are not getting enough food, would dogs migrate to these high resource pockets because dogs are known to migrate at times? And would this increase the aggression because dogs in the territories would not really open up their territories for their neighbors? And what would the long-term effects of this be? Because suddenly now the dog would be unused to having humans around, and once when the humans start coming back on the street a month or two later, would they suddenly face a lot of aggression from dogs? These were questions which we did not know. We expected migrations, we expected more aggression between dogs, but we didn't know how the dogs would react to us when we went back to the streets. So we actually, from the dog lab, we started a citizen science initiative, which we call Bonkerscavengers. Uh, any of you are still welcome to participate in this. We are still collecting data. We are asking people to send us videos of anything that they think is changed behavior in not just dogs, but any other scavengers. They could be monkeys. This is actually a photograph which went viral last month from Thailand, where there's this huge troop of monkeys in the streets. And we know that macaques and langurs are very, very urban adapted species. We, we have a lot of monkeys invading our spaces in both big and small towns and in big cities. So, how their behavior is going to be affected. Here you have cows, which are scavengers in many cities. So there are all kinds of scavengers out there, and there has been a shift in human behavior. It's an open question of what behavioral changes to expect in these animals. So anybody who's interested, you're most welcome to send us your videos. There is a survey which is there specifically focused on dogs. So please visit our Facebook page or the Dog Lab homepage. You can click on these links from the video and find us, or just Google the Dog Lab Isaac Kolkata and you'll find us. Uh, find out more about this initiative and participate, because this is something, as I said, very important to understand the behavior in order to be able to control it. Do we expect aggression? If we do, then what are the changes which have already happened? On the basis of this, we can tell people, do this, don't do this when you go out on the streets after the complete lockdown is over. I would like to thank the Regional Science City Lucknow for inviting me to deliver this webinar. Thank you to all the viewers, and sorry that there were some glitches. But in India, I think we always manage to live through these. I would like to thank the various funding agencies which have been supporting our work for the last almost 11 years: CSIR, INSA, the SCRB GST, ISA Kolkata, the Behavior and Ecology Lab group in ISA Kolkata, and all members, past and present, of the Dog Lab, because I have spoken about work from a lot of students. I have not taken individual names, but I'd like to acknowledge the entire Dog Lab team for their work, and all contributors to the Bonkerscavengers project so far, and anyone who would like to join in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Thank you, madam. Can you off the off? Hello,
Yes, I'm
am I
going to
audible?
stop sharing this.
Yeah, yeah. Stop selling. Yes, we have some question. It is a nice interaction and nice. I say it is a eye-opening talk for us. So we are always facing some sort of man-animal conflict everywhere, because in Lucknow we are facing some aggression of monkeys, and many times we love the stray dogs. Many times we offers the food to them, but this talk, I should say, as an ordinary person, it is an eye-opening talk. Though there is some technical problem, technical issues are there, little bit of technical problem. For that reason, there is some interruptions. I hope everybody enjoy these talks. Let me take some questions which already raised by some of our audience. Vishal Saxena is asking, ma'am, what human activities benefit biodiversity?
Very few. Benefit biodiversity, very few, because we seem to be always doing things against nature. But of course, when we go plant trees, when we do use natural composting rather than using fertilizers and insecticides in our gardens, when we feed animals, when even something as simple as putting out a bowl of water for birds in the summer, definitely enhance or help to nurture biodiversity. But most human activities actually hamper biodiversity.
Can dogs communicate with human? If yes, how?
Um, yes, in some ways. For example, there are actually studies, many of you would actually have observed that sometimes dogs will come and give you a very sorry look, and you feel sorry for them and you give them a biscuit. We often end up buying a packet of Parle-G and giving it to a dog because it gave this hungry, sad look. And it will come feed on your entire packet of Parle-G and go find the next victim and give them the same look. So this, sorry look of the dog. There are now studies which show that there has been evolutionary changes, genetic mutations in the musculature around the face and eyes of which have led to the muscles in the eyes changing and giving the dog's eyes the shape, which invariably connects to humans in communication. We empathize with them because of this look. So there has been evolutionary adaptations, if you'd ask about it. There are studies which show that the puppy dog, the puppy look also react. In of course these are in pet dogs, but I'm sure this works for free ranging dogs also. That in humans there is a surge of oxytocin levels in the blood when we make eye contact with dogs, and vice versa. Dogs also have a surge of oxytocin. Now, oxytocin is known as the maternal hormone because we in humans we have this reaction to human babies. The reaction which makes you want to cuddle a baby is exactly the reaction that dogs have hijacked in their evolution with humans. Where we have had a very close co-evolutionary history. That's why I said we have a long shared history, which is why we need to understand them, because they seem to have hijacked this maternal love kind of pathway, and we produce the same reaction when we look at a dog's eyes as we produce when we look at a human baby's eyes. So they are able to communicate. And if you're talking about dogs on streets, there are people who kind of respond to dogs in a certain kind of way. So obviously they are able to communicate. So communication can be at different levels. So they are excellent at begging. They are excellent at attracting attention and affection. So of course they are able to communicate.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah. Next question is that Posenjit Pramanik, he's asking that can dog carry the coronavirus?
Okay. There have been a couple of reports of dogs getting the coronavirus from their owners. What we know as of now is dogs can get it from their owners. There are no reports of dogs transferring the coronavirus to either other dogs or to the owners. So it is actually the other way around. Dogs can get infected from us. This is the current status.
Okay. Question from Mr. Akash. What are the evidence of plant communication by sound?
Plant communication?
By sound.
Not none that I know of. Lot
Okay.
of plant communication by chemicals, but sound I have never heard of. I'm sorry, I'm not a plant expert. There might be some, but I don't know.
Why and next question is why animal are not carrier of COVID virus as they are most exposed these days?
As they are?
Why animal are not carrier of COVID virus as they are most exposed these days?
Okay, so not every virus can infect every organism. So typically, how viruses act is they target certain proteins in our cells, and there would be a certain set of organisms which have the same protein, which can be affected or infected by a certain virus. So there are coronaviruses which affect dogs. There are coronaviruses which affect other species of animals, rats. There are coronaviruses on which people have been working for many years. Coronaviruses are a large family of viruses. The novel coronavirus is not known to infect many animals. There are some reports from cats. So cat family seems to be
Yes.
more prone to infection than any others. So it's basically the nature of the protein that the virus is targeting. That is basically it.
Which animal is evolutionary ancestor of dogs?
Wolves. The grey wolf is the closest ancestor of dogs, and that is why, if you look at the scientific name, wolves are Canis lupus lupus, and dogs are Canis lupus familiaris. So, dogs and wolves are just subspecies of Canis.
Okay, thank you, madam. Let me invite Mr. Ram Kumar, Senior Education Officer of RSC Lucknow, to propose vote of thanks for our special program exploring the nature. This is the last day and we concluding this program with this lecture. Mr. Ram Kumar.
Thank you, Mr. Ghosh. Now, as Regional Sciences Lucknow is organizing a special program, Explore the Nature virtually since last 25th May 2020. So during this period, a number of online popular talk is being organized through the live streaming session. So today it was the concluding talk of this special program. So on behalf of Regional Science City Lucknow, I express my sincere thanks to Professor Ananta Bhadra, Department of Biological Sciences, Kolkata, who spare her valuable time to deliver the talk for benefit of participants and students. I also thanks to all the participants who attend this valuable popular lectures. And at last, I also thanks to Sri Somen Ghosh, Curator Regional Science City Lucknow, for their sincere contribution and guidance. And once again, thanks to all the viewers of the talk. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Once again, we will meet in the next program. Let him know all the audience once again. Thank you. Thanks for watching.